Now, with the average female life expectancy of a woman in the UK now being 83, many of us will live 1/3 to half of our lives post-menopause. Well, today is World Menopause Day, as I mentioned, and this year its focus is on sexual well-being. Here's psychotherapist Esther Perel on Woman's Hour last November, talking about why menopause can open up a whole new world for some women.
Menopause for many women is freedom from the fear of childbirth and pregnancy, freedom from having to take care of other people. And the burden of caretaking is the primary block in female sexuality. In order to attend to herself, she needs to feel free of worry, anxiety, and responsibility for others. So menopause gives her that.
I'm joined by Cathy Abernethy, who is chair of the British Menopause Society and who's written a book, Menopause, the One-Stop Guide, Joe McEwen, co-founder of hotflush.info, and Dr. Karen Morton, who is a consultant gynaecologist, has kindly taken a break from appointments and joins us from a hospital in Guildford. Welcome to the programme. Cathy, why the focus on sexual well-being for this year's World Menopause Day?
Thank you, Tina. Well, sexual well-being has been chosen for the theme this year because it's such an important issue for women. It's something that women come and say that they sometimes have difficulties with as they go through the menopausal transition. And it's not just about intimate dryness, which perhaps we often concentrate on, but having sexual well-being for a woman is all related to physical health, emotional health, and also, of course, the relational issues. And women tell us that when they go through menopause, all of those aspects suffer, and she just feels less like a sensual woman, and therefore lovemaking becomes quite difficult and relationships become strained.
Karen, why are we so reluctant to discuss the menopause and our sex lives, or the lack of it, perhaps, with doctors?
Good morning. It's a good question. I don't agree with the introductory remarks of your speaker who spoke some time ago about it being liberating, to be honest. I think often at this sort of age, actually, women are feeling very trapped by their teenagers in the room next door, with the walls being rather thin, and all the pressures of looking after elderly people as well. It's not just a liberation from the idea that you might not get pregnant if you have sex.
Not just, Karen, but there is this idea, a lot of women think it's just impending doom and gloom when it approaches. It's not all bad.
Oh, not of course, absolutely not. And women need to be preparing at this time in their lives for the next 40 years. We're going to live till we're 90 if we're lucky. And sex is meant to be a very enjoyable part of life. But I think that as a nation, we're rather conservative. And even the sort of terms that doctors sometimes use, even using the term sexual intercourse, and if sex is painful, doctors have a code for so many things, and they use a word which is dyspareunia. Why they don't just say painful sex, I don't know. And so I think that it is a responsibility of doctors and other medical carers to facilitate this conversation by being really open with choice of words.
This came up in a Woman's Hour survey at the beginning of this year. Just over a third, 36% of people we polled who were experiencing menopause symptoms hadn't visited their GP to talk about it.
Well, I'm sure it's because women are great putter-uppers, aren't they? They don't want to complain. The vast majority of women put up with ghastly periods and then ghastly hot flushes and then painful sex. They feel embarrassed about talking about it, and they don't want to be a nuisance to their GP. And often, very sadly, they get slightly sort of fobbed off with just a whole load of lubricants and a tiny bit of 7-minute chat. And they don't, doctors sometimes don't get down to the real issue. Of course, hormonal nutrition to the vagina can be the whole story, but sometimes it isn't just that. Sometimes it's that a woman has developed an actual split in the skin at the entrance to the vagina because it's become more rigid. And one time when they did try to have sex, it literally split. And ladies should not just put up with thinking they've got to slap on more lubricant. They should actually go proactively, saying, no, I would really like to see an expert on this, please.
What can you do then if you have a tear?
You can do a very tiny little operation to divide it along the tear and stitch it side to side to produce what I call a smoother run-in. One needs to talk fairly basically about sex. It's a fairly nitty-gritty, basic sort of business, isn't it?
Joe?
Yes? Making that conversation easy for women is really important.
Joe, you make it easy for women to have that conversation. You have a website dedicated to information about the menopause, hotflush.info. Is that your experience, that people just don't want to talk about it? They're uncomfortable?
Absolutely. And I think how our Hot Flush came about was that we weren't finding the advice that we wanted in a fashion that we wanted it. So we created it ourselves. We went out and built it.
How are you trying to change the conversation? Is it that there's, less emphasis on physical symptoms, vaginal dryness, which is what everyone thinks of when they think of menopause, and more about also your relationship health, support from your partner, talking to them?
Absolutely. I mean, what we're looking at the moment, we're working on a campaign called Positive Pause, and that is very much where we are taking the negative impact of menopause symptoms and turning it on its head. We're working with women's health physios, we're working with nutritionists, we're being supported by Kegel8. We are saying to women, there is an awful lot that you can do out there. We want to say communication is absolutely key. There's so much data out there. I think 38% of men in a Women's Health Concern survey said that they weren't aware of that their partner was in going through menopause. Well, 38% of them apparently also in the same survey said that they felt a little bit helpless. Well, I don't know, I'm doing the maths there. We're talking about the same 38%. Women don't know. Everybody's utterly baffled by this. So we are saying, let's be positive. If you can't have that conversation, find it online, because we know that GPs, I think we're going to come on to this, GPs aren't having those conversations. And as Karen said, it can be quite clunky. It can be, people, they don't want to talk about it. So the vocabulary behind sex is in a medical profession, is quite difficult. So we're saying, come to us, find out more about what you can do. Go online, chat, talk to other women if you can't talk to your friends. Because who can talk about sex openly? It's quite difficult.
It is. Kathy, tell us about the work you're doing to make sure that women can access the help they need when they need it.
Yes, today on World Menopause Day, we're really delighted that the British Menopause Society is launching a register of menopause specialists. This has taken 18 months to put together because we recognise that for some women it's really difficult to access good menopause care. Some GPs are brilliant and others less so, unfortunately. So with the NICE guidance that came out in 2015, there was mention of going to see a specialist if you needed to, and really there were no specialists. So we've put together a register, we've put together things that we feel doctors and nurses should be able to do, including talking about sex and intimacy and certain qualifications. And if you find somebody on that register, then you can be confident that they are able to give you the information that you need.
Karen, where are we at the moment with HRT?
Oh, goodness, what a big question.
You've got less than a minute to answer it.
The truth is the NICE guidelines, which everybody can access, are very clear that by and large HRT is safe. It's almost like a personal philosophy. People have to decide for themselves what they want to do, but getting good information is the starting point. And there's no doubt that the biggest risk factor for breast cancer, which is what worries most people, is being overweight. And so keeping your weight good, keeping trim, exercising is highly protective. The role of hormone replacement therapy in breast cancer has been much overplayed. But these are philosophical points. Women need to be informed. They deserve to be informed and help to make good choices.
They do. And there are also obvious benefits, aren't there, of maintaining our sex life?
Yes, definitely there are. And it's not just to do with keeping the vagina nice and healthy, although obviously that's very important. If sex hurts, why would you want to do it? But it's more about confidence. Some women start to worry that they're getting a bit smelly because discharge changes, all sorts of intimate things which may well be helped by keeping the ecosystem of the vagina good and healthy with estrogen.
And a better night's sleep. Thank you. Thank you, Karen, Joe and Kathy, for joining us this morning.